Our guest tonight is the Melbourne Football Club's National Recruiting Manager, Jason Taylor, who has just completed his 10th draft for the Demons. He has overseen the drafting of premiership players such as 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝘁𝗰, James Harmes, Christian Petrarca, Angus Brayshaw, Alex Neil-Bullen, Clayton Oliver, Charlie Spargo, Bailey Fritsch, Harrison Petty, Tom Sparrow, James Jordan, Luke Jackson, 𝗍𝗲𝗄𝗁𝘀𝗁, Trem Rivers and Jake 𝗑𝗏𝗏. He was also at the club when we acquired a few other premiership stars such as Michael Hibberd, Jake Lever, Stephen May, Ed Langdon and Ben Brown. From that list, it is clearly evident that we are talking with Demon royalty. There was a ground zero for the genesis of the drought-breaking premiership. Jason, thanks for giving up your time to join us once again on the Demonland podcast.
Pleasure, Andrew.
Now, that list of players that I just named is quite impressive. You really were an integral part of putting together that premiership team. You and Lammy, that's Tim Lamb, the Demons list manager, probably don't get the kudos from the wider Demon community that you deserve for the flag. You must be pretty proud of that accomplishment.
Oh, look, I think, we're all proud of what we achieved that season, and we're all working hard to try and maximise the group we've got at the moment. I'm sure everyone got their credit for what simply is really a team effort. It comes down to a lot of facets within an organisation that all have to come together, not just one. So, it was very pleasing. We lick our wounds from this year and look to a new dawn ahead and hopefully another successful year next year.
Well, we certainly are hungry for it after we got that little taste. And I just want to briefly talk about the trade period. Having lost Luke Jackson, we obviously had a serious need to replace that backup ruck-sized hole that we have in the team, and the acquisition of Grundy fills that need. Similarly, with Sam Wiedemann exploring his option at the Bombers, we have secured a like-for-like replacement in Josh Schache. And then late in the trade period, we were able to secure Lachie Hunter, who will no doubt complement Ed Langdon on the other wing. And while strictly not under your purview in your role at the club, can you take us through those trades?
Oh, basically, Tim Lamb's been on record with all those, is that if you start with Brodie Grundy, well, clearly with, Luke having to, I suppose, in his own mind, negotiate what was going to happen throughout the year. We had to plan accordingly. And in those scenarios, you plan for Luke to stay or you plan if Luke's to leave. So, Tim went about setting about Brodie as a real target once that came about. He did a really good job in attracting him to our footy club along with Simon and Alan Richardson. As far as the replacement, we think we come out on top there. It's a really good acquisition for the club. And whilst he had some injury issues last year, Brodie, he's had an outstanding career to date. He's a two-time All-Australian, and we're really looking forward to seeing him work in tandem with Max. And as you said, with the departure of Sam, Sam came to Tim and just spoke about looking for, potential further opportunities. So just given our relationship with Sam and the character of him, we let him explore that, which ultimately took him to Essendon. But that wasn't to happen without having the ability to replace him, and that's where Tim got to work and was able to acquire Josh Schache to allow that to happen as Sam was in contract. So it was important that we did fill that. And that was able to be done with Josh coming in the door, and just later in the trade period, an opportunity came up with Lachie, and yes, we feel just with his his ability, he's the best and fairest winner at the Bulldogs, and he really does have great running capacity.
Before we talk about this year's draft crop, I just want to get your thoughts on Luke Jackson leaving. Obviously, drafting interstate players is always going to be fraught with danger, and inevitably it comes with the risk of them wanting to go home. We saw that with Luke, and we saw that play out with Horne-Francis too. And based on your draft history, you're not adverse to drafting players from outside of Victoria. Nibbler, Petty, Sparrow, Jackson, Pickett, Rivers, Van Rooyen, Woden, and now Adams. What are your thoughts on Jackson leaving? You pushed hard to draft him with the coveted third pick. He was an integral part of the premiership. The third quarter was phenomenal. I'm not asking or fishing for any regrets about it. I just want to get your take on, generational talent leaving, and is there any trepidation from you or the club about casting the net outside of Victoria?
No, there isn't. And, it's a national competition. There's been a little bit of noise around it. This year in particular, but we've done a study on it, and if you look through the percentages over, a decade or so, it's not really that high, the percentage of players that return home. So, we go in with, facts in our mind, and we treat each case as a case-by-case scenario and do our homework around that. And if we're satisfied that there's no real risk of that and the talent gap's not too far, well, then we're happy to select from anywhere in the country, because otherwise we then start to compromise exactly what we do for a job. And in a national competition, you should be free to select from anywhere in the country.
There was some smoke about 𝗍𝗶𝘀𝗁 in the trade period. Nothing came of it. The club was adamant that there was nothing to the rumours. Is 2023 with 𝗍𝗶𝘀𝗁 going to mirror the 𝗍𝗶𝘀𝗁 won't he leave circus that we experienced in the past season with Jacko?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I think, that all things are fine there. I think it was just, I'm not sure where that came from, to be honest. And nor is Tim. And, we move forward. We're happy there. And I think it was just the trade period itself might have, with that movement with, say, Horn, Francis and Jackson, I think that was just a bit of smoke out of nowhere, that one.
I think Kane Corns might have had something to do with it.
Might have lit that fire,
yeah. As I mentioned in the intro, you've just completed your 10th draft with the club. We went in with pick 13, and there was speculation that we would try to jump up the draft order by doing a deal with Essendon. Is there any truth to that? How far off were we? And who were you looking at that really pointy end of the draft?
There's some truth in that. I think we owe it to the organisation that, if we've got assets, that we try and secure, who we feel could be, generational talent. So, clearly they come higher up the draft order. So we looked at opportunities of exploring that, but we weren't going to do it at the detriment of, our assets that we hold into the future as well. So, yes, we explored it, but it had to be a fair and reasonable deal in the end for that to happen. And as often happens is that clubs that hold those high picks tend to enter negotiations, but they very, very rarely come to anything. So nothing came of that in the end. And we were looking at a couple of players at that range that we thought, could be very good players for a long time.
We took Matthew Jefferson from Oakleigh Chargers with what ended up being pick 15. He's a 190-centimetre key position forward. He's named in the the under-18 All-Australian team, and he kicked 7 goals in a match against Western Australia. In fact, 5 goals were kicked in 1 quarter. We're in the fortunate position where we can develop him at Casey, as we did with Van Rooyen last season. Can you take us through that selection?
Yeah, we go into every draft, looking to pick the best available player, and but also we need to take into consideration needs, but not to do that at the expense of the talent. So we've found ourselves in a pretty fortunate position where we're selecting with Matthew, and we felt that along with Jacob coming in last year, that was certainly another need that we needed to bring in, and as you said, quite rightly so, is give them time to develop. And Matty hit 195. Whilst he's got to put some size on his frame, we're confident he can do that. And he has, he's got a bit of growth to go as far as his physical development, his endurance, and so the other boys we brought in this year. But we feel they've got the right attitude, and that'll come over time. He's certainly got the footy IQ and the aerial ability for his position.
Our second pick, number 38 overall, saw us select Jed Adams from Peel Thunder in WA. He's a 196 defender. What type of role do you see Jed eventually taking, and which current Demon defender do you most liken him to? Yeah,
it's interesting. He's a bit of a mixture of probably Petty and Lever, and can even fill the role that Stephen May plays. He's a very good aerial player, comes at the ball really well. He did play a lot of his footy as a junior forward, so we've seen snippets of that this year, but he was predominantly a key defender. He's come into the program after a couple of years of just injury, so he hadn't had a real continuity over his last, say, 3 years, but started to get some this year before he hurt his shoulder later in the year. We really liked Jed and his potential, his upside, if you like, which can be a dangerous word, but we feel that he plays footy in the right manner, and he'll probably start down back and then, but who knows what can happen in the future. But we've got another. We just thought it was an important time if the talent was there in the key position areas that we like to select this year, and that gives us some real flexibility going forward to be really creative with what stands as a pretty good hand we hold next year.
Is he over those injury concerns from during the season?
Oh, he's had a shoulder, yeah. So he'll be slower. He's got to build his base, and he probably won't get back into starting into full training like late January, February. So, look, there's no rush on him. We'll give him time. It's a long-term acquisition, both him and Jefferson. And for that matter, the next boys we'll talk about.
Yeah, I'll get into those right now. We secured a couple of rookies that I'd love to get your thoughts on. First was Big Will Verrill from South Adelaide. He's an athletic 199-centimetre ruckman. And with Majak Dor and Mitch Brown retiring, Sam Wiedemann being traded to Essendon, we really do need that backup project ruckman. We also secured another prospective ruckman in ex-basketballer 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝗁𝘀𝗁. Can you take us through those two ruck acquisitions? And given the absence of the aforementioned retirees and Sam going as well, what role do you see these two young boys playing at Casey next season?
Yeah, well, again, Will's had some groins that he kind of battled through the year manfully. And played a decent amount of footy, but we just need to set him up for success and get that right and bring him through the pre-season and build his body, because he does have a naturally good vertical leap. He's and good follow-up at ground level, and he can go forward and catch it well. That's something he does have up in his armoury. So he's going to take some time, but we like the way he plays with aggression. And we like his skill set. We put a lot of time into him, and coming into this year, I think if he had had a better run at it, he might have been a higher prospect. He'll take time to develop. And 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝗁𝘀𝗁𝘀, that just came about through networks throughout the year, and we brought him in and screened him. He's 206. He's has all those Category B prospects who have come from basically another sport. It gives you a little bit of confidence. He played some footy as a junior, but he's got a long way to go. But he's hit the ground with a really good attitude, and his running capabilities are quite good. But he's a bit of a baby deer at the moment, mate. So he's just got to find his feet, and we just thought it was a good opportunity to, they're hard to find, and sometimes you just got to look outside the square when you're looking for those types. Do they always win? Well, maybe not, but we're confident that he showed enough aptitude in our screening of him, like we would any draftee, that he'll give it his fair shot.
Given that there's no development league anymore in the seconds level, where do these guys play if they're not in the Casey team? Yeah,
well, we had to sit down and formalise that, but there have been opportunities through the NAB League where players have been able to do that in the past. So we'll look at those opportunities once we sit down as the dust just settled for now.
Our final rookie selection was one out of left field. Oliver Sexton is a powerful mid-sized forward who played at Mansfield and Xavier. He kicked 50-plus goals for Mansfield under-18s in 6 or 7 games, including that massive haul of 24 goals in one match. Oliver was present at the pre-draft Connors Sports training session as a low-key addition amongst a bevy of eventual drafted talent. Reports suggest that he impressed at this outing. Is that where you guys became aware of him, or was he on your radar prior to this session?
Well, he to take you through the process, and sometimes the acquisition of players through a drafting sense can come up in many weird and colourful ways, and you've got to follow them all through. And he did train at that session, and he did some really eye-catching things. Now, it's only a training session, so we're not going to get carried away with that, but it does then make you dig a little bit and refer back to some reports we had on him, and then we've been able to we've just purchased this new software that allows us to get access to a lot of competitions that are outside of our normal platforms. And so we had the ability to go through all his vision from last year and this year, as well as couple that with a couple of the reports we had on him. And and there's just some real promise with him. He was going to be set to play at Oakleigh Chargers next year. So in the NAB League, and we just like what we saw. He's a really natural goal kicker. He's very clean, takes the ball well in the air. Yes, he's got a bit of work to do physically and build his endurance, but we feel that he's got the right attitude once we sat down and spoke with him, and that he'll give it his best shot. And there's always those possibilities with those players. And as we, the mid-season draft's, relatively new, and it's been going 3 or 4 years. You've got to look at opportunities, and sometimes these kids, you think, well, he might just jump out of the box early and get going, and then all of a sudden, we're hoping we're up the higher end of the ladder. You may not get opportunity to select these guys. So we thought it was just a calculated, not risk, it was an opportunity really. So we backed ourselves in, and we made that selection.
Jason, I'd like to take you through the remaining draft picks from the past few drafts that we're yet to see pull on a seniors Guernsey, and get your take on how they're travelling, how far off or how close they are to us seeing them run out onto the G. Many D's fans were yelling and screaming for 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝘁𝗁 to get a call up late in the season. The footy department resisted temptation to pull the pin. Was he close last season? And how early this season do you think it'll be until we see him debut?
Well, we certainly, well, I think we need to temper the fact that he's a 19-year-old key position player. And he had really an excellent first season at VFL level, kicking 36 goals, which is not often done. But, I think it was really fortunate to be able to play him all year. He played in the premiership, and just he gathered confidence each week, I felt, throughout the year. So I think that's a really good platform to set him up for this year. Now, he's come back really strong for the pre-season.
Yeah, I saw a photo. Looks big.
Yeah, he's a big, powerful kid who's competitive, and he'll certainly, like a lot of the boys who come back, he'll put himself in the frame to try and get an opportunity early in the piece.
I'll quick fire a couple of names of the others, starting with Bailey Laurie.
Yeah, Bailey's come back really well, actually. He looks really good. He ran well on the 2K. He looks a little bit leaner in the body. We almost treated him, not almost, we did treat him like a first-year player last year. He had, significant cheekbone eye socket injury, and then another injury, I think it was his shoulder after that. So he really never got an opportunity to get going after missing some significant footy with COVID as well. So we were really pleased with his development last year, and we're expecting him to develop even further this year.
Blake Howes, I saw a picture of him. He looks in good shape too.
Yeah, no, he's running well, Blake. All the boys have come back really hungry, which is good. Blake again started last year really well. Was probably, pushing for selection a little bit in the early piece there. And then he had that foot injury, so that kind of set him back. And then, as you know, it's, you miss a patch of 12 or so weeks. It's difficult for young players to recapture their form, but he battled along well and was able to be part of the premiership success as well. So, again, he's a young player. He's lightly framed. He's got some real speed about him and smarts and an aerial game. So, we're excited by what he can eventually turn into.
𝗪𝗏 Woden?
Yeah, very impressed on how he's come back, actually. Watching training yesterday, he looks like he's filled out even more. He's running well, real professional. I think that he'll give himself a chance this year, 𝗪𝗏, I reckon, the way he's come back.
Daniel Turner got a call up on Queen's birthday, was very impressive in the few minutes that we got to see him, but his debut was short-lived with that terrific injury. Do you reckon we'll see him make a return this season?
Yeah, I certainly hope so. For Daniel, he's tracking really well, as you say. He's a little bit, he's quite an aggressive player. He's a little bit over-exuberant on debut and caught himself a bit of mischief. But, we love the way he goes about it. Disco, and he's a pretty smart player, and we think he's got a bright future. He's come back well and looks fit and lean and ready to go.
Trent Burgoyne, son of former Port Adelaide player Peter, has been invited to train with the D's over the pre-season in a bid to earn a rookie spot, as is Kai Turner. Can you tell us a little bit about these two, and are there any other train-on players at the moment?
No, that's all we can have, and it's really just looking for one spot. Obviously we had a little bit of a look at Trent through his junior years, and he's at Port Magpies last year, but he just hadn't had a lot of continuity with his body, unfortunately, which is a challenge for him. But he does have some speed on the outside, so we just thought we'd bring him over and give him a look. And 𝗠𝗲𝗀𝗁𝗀, again, it was just one of those opportunities through a network of mine that just said this kid was going okay at Old Harbour in the amateurs. And so I watched him a number of times towards the back end of the year, and I thought he showed a fair bit of promise, actually. And his VFL footy at Frankston, a couple of games he played there was, watching the vision back on that was pretty good as well. So we've had a fair look at Kai, and we just thought he's worth an opportunity. If he's to come on and buy himself an opportunity, we feel we're pretty well stacked in their young tools. But he's got some good speed, good endurance, and he's got a pretty good attitude. So we'll just see how he goes. It's just an opportunity for these boys to put their best foot forward, and without any guarantees attached to it.
Got a couple of father-son prospects on the horizon. Kynan Brown, how's he tracking? I think he's available next year.
Yeah, Kynan's going well. He's a good kid with a good attitude, and he's in the club now. He's training at the moment. Gets an opportunity to do that for a few weeks, and obviously, like all our young draftees that come in, they're pretty nervous on day one, and so he's just blowing out a bit of nervous energy the other day. But he had a pretty good year at NAB league level, and it'll be interesting to see how he develops further this year.
I believe 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝗁𝗀, son of our current assistant coach, is also in the system. You're having a look at him?
Yeah, we certainly are. We track all our father sons who are playing footy at a decent level, and he's at Caulfield Grammar and in the Chargers program, so we'll certainly track him amongst others.
And the one we're sort of most excited, he's still a little bit further away, Kalani White. I see photos of him on Jeff's social media. He's almost as tall as Jeff is at the moment, and from the clips of his basketball and footy that Jeff sometimes posts, it seems like he's quite athletic and has a bit of skill.
Yeah, he's extremely athletic. Boy, he's quite tall. He's growing at a rapid rate. I think he's called Dad, so he's, he's got some exciting athletic ability, that's for sure.
And finally, Jason, you've overseen 10 drafts. You've drafted 15 premiership players from the national draft. This might be asking who your favourite kid is, but do you have a favourite out of any of the ones you've drafted?
Oh, yeah. It's hard to say, really. I mean, you kind of love them all, but if you're coming from the angle of, I suppose, Harmsy a rookie pick.
Yep.
I think, and he's a Melbourne supporter, so I was pretty happy for him, to be honest. But no, they're all good. You like them all for varying reasons, and you want to see that success for them because they work hard and they deserve it.
Well, Harmsy was certainly living the dream of every one of us D supporters, that's for sure. Jason, I really want to thank you for your time. It's really insightful every time we speak to you, and thank you very much. And a massive thank you as well for putting together the pieces of the puzzle to bring us that drought-breaking premiership. Thank you.
It was very special. Thanks, Andrew.